Hello, my lovely rose garden. I'm Avalon.
And I'm Ray.
And welcome back to Throne of Ass. We are in the last quarter of the book now. Doesn't feel like it.
Feels like we're still just kind of dragging ourselves along.
You know, maybe it would have helped the pacing if we actually got to see some of the challenges and trials, because now
Yeah.
we're down to the last three before there's also a tournament. Like, it's very poorly paced and thought out, and
Yeah.
we've complained about it before. This is a decently long chapter, so I'm just going to try to get going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure we'll stop and make commentary where needed.
Yep. Well, that is the point, isn't it?
Yes. Yards of silk, clouds of powder, brushes, combs, pearls, and diamonds glistened before Alyssocles' eyes as Philippa arranged the last strand of Alyssocles. I feel like I messed someone's name up, but I think it's just there's just a lot of Alyssocles in this paragraph.
Yep.
As Philippa arranged the last strand of Alyssocles' hair neatly around her face, secured a mask over her eyes and nose, and placed a small crystal tiara on her head, Alyssocles couldn't help but feel, despite herself, like a princess. Philippa knelt to polish the lump of crystal on Alyssocles' silver slippers. Oh, it's Cinderella! We got Cinderella reference. It's the ball chapter.
It's Cinderella now.
If I didn't know better, I don't know. This character has never had a consistent voice. I'm imagining her as Mrs. Potts, but I don't feel that I could disrespect Angela Lansbury by trying to do her voice.
Well, I mean, it was Angela Lansbury doing a Cockney accent.
Yeah, but still, me doing a Cockney accent to try to be Angela Lansbury doing a Cockney accent would be disrespectful to Angela Lansbury.
True. What's all this then?
If I didn't know better, I'd call myself a fairy queen. It's like, Philippa caught herself before she spoke the word the king of Aderlin had so effectively outlawed, and quickly said, I barely recognize you.
Wait, he outlawed the word too?
I guess.
Just no one can say the word magic.
No music.
No music.
So yeah, obviously Philippa is the fairy godmother.
Yeah.
We knew that.
No one is surprised.
We knew that was going to be the case. Good, Alyssocles said. This would be her first ball where she wasn't there to kill someone. True, she was
Okay, but wait, okay, so the word magic is outlawed, but not the word fairy?
Or word marks, or word, or... Like, it's implied that Alyssocles had to sneak into the library to get these books about word marks and things. If not outright stated, it's been a while, I can't remember. Clearly Nehemia wasn't supposed to be looking at them either. But only the word magic is outlawed.
Whatever.
I don't know if she means it to be that he has effectively outlawed it in a metaphorical sense, that it is just so taboo to speak of it. Or if it is literally against the law, but also it's only the two of them there.
Yeah.
So who cares?
Yeah. And also, like, private conversations about magic have happened before within this book.
This feels like something that, and this is going to sound ridiculous to say because it will give the implication that this book went through a redrafting and revision process. This feels like something that was left in from an earlier draft.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was all like, it seems like these chapters were written out of order.
It's like okay. Telling on myself a little bit here because I was a teenager once and I did have that arrogance of thinking that my books were just as good as some of the published works I had seen. I'm imagining that what happened here is that she did redraft and revise up to a point of like her quote unquote older stuff. And then didn't bother going through the rest of it.
Yeah.
That was a little more recent.
Yeah.
And I have no evidence of this. It is purely conjecture. But based on mistakes that I have made in the past, I wouldn't be surprised if by the time she got toward the end of the book, she was like, yeah, it's fine. It's recent enough. It doesn't need to be gone over again. I remember what was in it. Because something like this probably took a couple years.
Yeah.
Like, even if you were posting new chapters on a mostly weekly basis. It would still take a while to write this much content.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just a theory.
A mass theory.
True, she was mostly going to make sure Nehemia didn't hurt herself or the court. But a ball was a ball. Maybe if she was lucky, she could dance a little. Again, the suspicion on Nehemia is stupid and I hate it. It feels a little bit racist.
It feels a little bit pointless since we all know that Nehemia isn't the person killing people.
Are you certain this is a good idea? Philippa asked quietly, standing. Captain Westfall won't be pleased. Elisicles gave the servant a sharp look. I told you not to ask questions. Ah, yes, Elisicles, champion of the lower classes. How long has it been since she spared a thought for anyone that's not basically nobility? Philippa huffed. Just don't tell them I helped you when you get dragged back here. Checking her irritation, Elisicles strode to the mirror, Philippa bustling after her. Standing before her reflection, Elisicles wondered if she was seeing correctly. This is the most beautiful dress I've ever worn, she admitted, her eyes filling with light. It was not pure white, but rather a grayish offset, and its wide skirts and bodice were encrusted with thousands of minuscule crystals that reminded Elisicles of the surface of the sea. Swirls of silk thread on the bodice made rose-like designs that could have passed for a work by any master painter. A border of ermine lined the neck and provided slender sleeves that only covered her shoulders. The tiny diamond droplets fell from her ears, and her hair was curled and swept up onto her head, strands of pearls woven in. Her gray silk mask had been secured tight against her face. It wasn't fashioned after anything. Bet. But the delicate crystal and pearl whorls had been crafted by a skilled hand. I'm just imagining Disney's Cinderella.
Yeah. With the mask on.
Especially when you get to the pure white but grayish offset.
Yeah.
Like, that's Disney Cinderella.
Mm-hmm.
Her hair's piled on top of her head.
Mm-hmm.
She has, tiny diamond droplets for the earrings. I'm like, I picture Disney Cinderella. Which, to be more fair than this book deserves, a lot of people in the West are going to picture Disney Cinderella if you bring up anything even remotely alluding to Cinderella, because that is the most dominant retelling of the story in our cultural zeitgeist.
Mm-hmm.
There's really no avoiding it unless you go way out of your way, like Cinder did. I did not think of Disney Cinderella once while I was reading Cinder. I thought about Sailor Moon a few times, but that was intentional.
Yeah.
You could win the hand of a king looking like that, said Philippa, or perhaps a crown prince will do. Where in Aeriel did you find this dress? Elisicles murmured. Don't ask questions, clucked the old woman. Rare Philippa W. Elisicles smirked. Fair enough. She wondered why her heart now felt too large for her body, and why she was so unstable in her shoes. She had to remember why she was going. She had to keep her wits about her. The clock struck 9, and Philippa glanced toward the doorway, giving Elisicles the opportunity to slip her makeshift knife down her bodice without being noticed. How exactly are you going to get to the ball? I don't think your guards will let you just walk out. Elisicles shot Philippa a sly look. We're both going to pretend that I was invited by the Crown Prince, and right now you are going to make such a fuss about me being late that they won't object. Yeah, okay.
We're gonna Karen them into it.
I'm gonna have a BF. I'm gonna write a letter. Philippa fanned herself, her face reddening. Elisicles grasped her hand. I promise, she said. If I get into any sort of trouble, I will swear to my last breath that you were deceived by me and had no knowledge of anything. But are you going to get into trouble? Elisicles gave her most winning smile. No, I'm just sick of being left to sit around while they have grand parties. It wasn't quite a lie. God's help me, Philippa muttered and took a deep breath. Go, she suddenly cried, herding Elisicles toward the door to the hall. Go, you'll be late. She was a bit too loud to be totally convincing, but Philippa flung open the door to the hallway. The Crown Prince won't be pleased if you're late. Elisicles paused in the doorway, nodding at the 5 guards who were posted outside, and then looked back at Philippa. Thank you, Elisicles said. No more dawdling, the servant woman cried, and almost knocked Elisicles off her feet as she pushed her out the doorway and slammed it shut. Elisicles turned to the guards. You look nice. One of them, Ress, said shyly. Oh, hey, the cards get names.
Wow.
On page 286. Off to the ball, grinned another. Save a dance for me, will you? The third added. Not one of them questioned her. That was easy. It's almost like we didn't even need them there.
It's almost like these characters basically haven't existed up until this point.
It's almost
like who's been keeping her in her rooms?
Yeah, like she has been going about pretty freely the entire time. Usually we hear about Nehemia having some guards for her safety. We don't really hear much about these guards trying to keep Elisicles from going anywhere. She's been able to get around pretty much wherever she wants to go. And also, again, could have been a chance to have some of that class consciousness that Mass wants us to believe that Selena has by having her actually befriend her guards earlier on so that they would allow her to go to the ball.
Have poor people be characters that matter?
Absurd, I know.
When's the last time we heard about fucking what's his name? The her bandit friend.
Knox.
Yeah.
Or Sam. Or whoever.
Sam, that one character that purely exists to give her a tragic backstory. And Knox, aka Bandit from Bluey.
Yeah.
Like these characters that just, you know.
He got mentioned once, like I think he's still in the tournament, maybe? I think it said Pelor got sent home. I think Knox is still here.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, also, I know that Mass has said that while this story started as like a high fantasy Cinderella retelling, it very quickly abandoned that premise with only a few nods to it still remaining. But befriending the guards could have been a similar thing to, you know, Cinderella's animal friends.
Yeah.
Which is a little degrading to the guards, but no more degrading than how they've been treated in the book.
By being literal not characters, Cinderella's animal friends literally in any iteration where animals help her have more presence than these guards have had.
Yeah. And again, I go back to this feels like a chapter that wasn't, I mean, a lot of it is felt unedited, but this feels in particular like an early draft chapter that didn't get refreshed before publication.
Yeah.
Because these guards are just entirely too friendly and cordial with her.
For having never been spoken to up until now.
Yeah. Elisicles smiled and took Ress's arm as he extended it to her. She tried not to laugh when he puffed out his chest, but as they neared the great hall and the sounds of a waltz could be heard, a swarm of bees took flight in her stomach. She couldn't forget why she was here.
The bees!
He'd played this part in the past, but it had ended in killing a stranger, not confronting a friend. Again, he's literally walking
escorting
hand
her?
in arm to the ball. Like, why hasn't he been a supporting character before now?
Why hasn't he been mentioned? It's almost as if Sarah J. Maas didn't think about that.
I feel robbed. He seems like a cutie. A little guy. He's got a case of little gaitis.
Mm-hmm.
The red and gold glass doors opened, and she could see the wreaths and candles that bedecked the massive hall. It would have been easier if she could have slipped into the ball through a side door and remained unnoticed, but she hadn't had time to go exploring through the secret tunnels. Secret tunnels! Secret tunnels! To find another way out of her rooms, and she certainly couldn't find another way into the ball now without raising suspicions. Ress stopped and bowed. "This is where I leave you," he said as seriously as he could, though he kept looking at the ball that lay at the foot of the stairs. "Have a lovely night, Miss Sardothian." "Thank you, Ress." Again, he knows her real okay, well, I guess the guards would know her real identity, because they know why they're guarding her.
Yeah.
But also, again, It's taken Kale how long to see her as more than just a hired killer, and this guard within a page of being name dropped is like, well, have fun at the ball.
Yeah, well, like, come on, we need reason for these guards to be.
They shouldn't be this comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, he should at least be insisting on staying
Yeah.
to watch her.
Yeah.
She felt an urge to vomit and ran back to her
Not
room.
again!
No! Instead, she graciously nodded her farewell. She just had to make it down the stairs and find a way to convince Kaol to let her stay. Then she could keep an eye on Nehemia all night. Her shoes seemed frail. Yeah, glass slipper reference. And Alyssocles took a few steps back, ignoring the guards at the door as she lifted her feet high and set them down to test the strength of the shoes. When she was assured that not even a jump through the air could snap the heel, she approached the top of the stairs. Tucked into her bodice, the makeshift knife poked her skin. She prayed to the goddess, to every god she knew, to the word, to whatever was responsible for her fate, that she wouldn't have to use it. Alyssocles squared her shoulders and stepped forward.
You made a makeshift knife, and you put it in your bodice, and you didn't think to make a makeshift sheath? Just stabs herself right in the stomach while has to lean down briefly and stabs herself right in the stomach.
Slip that right between the ribs into the lung.
It's like, girl, you're bad at this. I don't know what to tell you.
POV switch tilde. What was she doing here? Dorian almost dropped his drink as he saw Alyssocles Sardothian atop the stairs. Sorry. Alyssocles Halliwell. Atop the stairs. Even with the mask, he recognized her. She might have her faults, but Alyssocles never did anything half-heartedly. She'd outdone herself with that dress. But she didn't do shit.
She didn't make the dress.
But what was she doing here? He couldn't tell if it were a dream or reality until several heads, then many, turned to look. Though the waltz was playing, those not dancing quieted themselves as the mysterious masked girl lifted her skirts and took a step, then another. Her dress was made of stars plucked from the sky, and the whorls of crystal in her gray mask glittered. So, Sarah J. Maas is really favoring the word whorl, as in W-H-O-R-L.
Yeah.
Really favoring that word this chapter.
I mean, I enjoy a, often, you don't see that word around much anymore. I enjoy the use of it, but also, like, don't lean on it, girl. It is a strange word. It's gonna poke out the more you use it.
Yeah, like once to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
And then use swirls or whirls with an I. That's the more common. Anyway. Who is that? Breathed a young courtier beside him.
Well, I think whirl with an I is meant to more simulate like the actual movement rather than the design. The design is with the O.
Yeah, but a lot of people...
Whirl would probably be most common.
Yeah, but even then, people use whirl with an I interchangeably to describe movement and pattern.
Yeah.
It's just one of those quirky English things. She looked at no one as she descended the staircase, and even the Queen of Aderlin stood to see the late arrival, Nehemia also rising from her seat beside her. Had Alyssocles lost her mind? Walk to her, take her hand. But his feet were leaden, and Dorian could do nothing except watch her. His skin flushed beneath his small black mask. He didn't know why, but seeing her made him feel like a man. She... What?
Okay.
I mean, good for you. Gender euphoria is great. What?
Makes him feel like a man. It's like when you... It's the same feeling when you go out and chop some wood.
That does make me feel like a man.
I'm just over here like, why is seeing a lady in a nice dress making you feel like a man? Unless...
I will say though, on the topic of gender euphoria and being a little genderqueer, they them as I am, there are two things that make me feel like a man. All right, yard work and wearing long skirts with hoodies, and I couldn't explain the second one to you. That is my most masculine clothing that I have is hoodie, long skirt.
We need to buy you more pants.
Oh,
that aren't sweatpants.
That's what I'm saying. Like, even if I'm, wearing pants and trying to pass myself off as masculine, which doesn't do great considering that I am 5'2" and adorable, uh, even when I am trying to dress masculinely, I still feel more masculine in a hoodie and a long skirt than I don't know why.
I mean, to be fair, let's be
More
real
men
now.
should wear long skirts.
Let's be real. If it was more socially acceptable, I'm pretty sure more men would just wear long skirts and hoodies. It is the easiest clothes to move around in.
It's so comfortable.
It's so comfortable, and like you can carry so many things under that skirt. Sew in some pockets, you're good to go.
If men wore skirts and dresses, all skirts and dresses would have pockets.
Yeah.
Imagine the world. Right, this is today, and this is the world if all dresses and skirts had pockets. Right? Like, get on it, men. Harry Styles, you've done great work. We need to expand it.
Yeah. All I gotta say is that more men should wear muumuus.
Yeah, that too.
Like
They're comfy.
They're comfy. They're
Like,
comfy.
God, man, be comfortable.
Just take a sheet, fold it in half, cut a hole in the top, and then sew it all the way up to the top, except, spot where your arm can go, and you've got a muumuu, and it is the most comfortable thing you will ever wear in your life.
You know what we really need to do?
And then, add a sash, and you're styling.
We really just need to bring back Greek and Roman fashion, like ancient Greek and Roman fashion.
Yeah.
Just
we need chitons.
We need chitons.
Yeah.
It's just a sheet, and you tie it around yourself, and that's it. In the summertime, you wear it above your knee. In the wintertime, you wear it down to your ankles.
And we can actually learn to gird our loins again in the correct way.
Exact. You get a little satchel on your belt.
Uh-huh.
It's great. It's fantastic.
We need to bring back men wearing the long flowing clothes because we've been robbed.
Yeah,
our fashion is boring.
This whole men wearing pants and nothing else thing is a way more modern view of masculinity than a lot of people want to admit. Do you know how cool men look in long skirts and robes? Mm-hmm. It's so cool. Bring that shit. And then, listen, I know you're wondering.
I'm just over here waiting for the day that my mom is all like, hey, do you want my Egyptian silk gown? Because I'm gonna live in that in the summer.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And I know what you're thinking. What about the bits and bobs? If you have a long skirt, that's all you need. You don't need anything else.
It don't matter.
It don't matter.
It don't matter.
It don't matter. I know a couple guys around, and this is the part, I know we're going off on a totally related tangent, but
it's all
that's
right.
why you come to these podcasts.
Fine. It's fine, don't worry about it.
I hate when I see a guy walking around with a kilt, and I have to pause and ask myself, is he just proud of his Celtic / Gaelic, Scottish, Irish heritage?
Yeah.
Or is he a Nazi? Because for some reason...
Are they taking up kilts now?
Well, yeah, that whole, Viking, Nordic, super Scottish, that whole thing.
Come on, Celts. You need to take that shit back. You can't let the white supremacists have that shit.
It's all that. It's, you see someone with, a Thor's hammer necklace, and you have to ask yourself, are they just a Norse pagan, or are they a white supremacist? And it's always men with, beards and bald heads, and it does not help.
Come on, guys. Come on. You need to take this shit back. We can't be doing this. We can't be letting them have anything.
Kilts used to be punk, man.
Yeah.
It was about the gender nonconformity and being secure in your masculinity.
Not gonna lie.
Also honoring the heritage and the fact that this whole pants being masculine bullshit is a recent thing.
I really wanted one of those like monochromatic kilts with like the fucking torn up jeans underneath them.
Hell yeah.
That's peak. That is peak punk, and I love it.
Like, to me, in my heart, kilts are punk.
Yeah, they are.
But I know that, you know, I just, unfortunately, I see, and it's a shame. It is generalizing, and I'm sorry about it, but when I see an older white guy with a bald head wearing a kilt, I have to do that kind of double take of, are you a cool guy? Or are you a fucking Nazi?
Yeah. We can't let them have anything, guys. We can't let them have that shit. They already basically own Oxblood Doc Martens. We can't have this anymore. They can't be getting away with this shit. We can't let them have shit.
They cannot be fashionable.
No.
Like, that is a big problem, right? It's an image thing. They're very fashion. Like,
we cannot let them have anything
they
punk,
cannot.
especially. No more. They're not allowed in punk spaces anymore.
They never were.
They never were, but I don't know why they're able to take all this stuff that is punk.
Yeah, it's like, being anti-fascist is punk.
Yeah, that's like the whole point.
Full stop.
Anti-fascist, anti-capitalist. Like,
I really need to, like, get my jacket more put together and make it into more of a battle vest, because, like, I really want your Queers Bash Back patch on mine.
oh, I got mine from eBay.
I know I'm gonna have to go, you know, it's not gonna be something commercially sold, because it has a swastika being crushed by a pink triangle on it.
It's an older one, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look for it, but
Yeah.
I'll look for something similar at least.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
still
want to
get my Queer Cryptid patch. I think it's restocked.
Yeah. Like, I used to have the Dagger Demi and Glaive Genderqueer,
Mhm.
and they just didn't quite fit right, so now they're hanging up
Yeah.
in the office, but
I feel like we need to steam them to make them more like
malleable.
Less stiff.
Yeah. And also I wanted to wear that jacket around town, and unfortunately we don't live in a town that I feel safe doing that in. Even on the West Coast, there are places that are not the most safe to be openly queer, but
Basically, the further inland you get, the more you kind of want to hide a little bit.
yeah, once you get into the mountains, it's a different vibe. But, you know, anyway, back to this.
Yeah.
It was a complete non sequitur.
Don't worry about it. It's fine.
It's fine.
We love to hear it, right?
And it was only a few minutes.
Mm-hmm. Back to it.
She was something out of a dream in which he was not a spoiled young prince, but a king. She reached the bottom of the stairs, and Dorian took a step forward. But someone had already arrived, and Dorian clenched his jaw tight enough for it to hurt as she smiled and bowed to Kaol. Don't get between them. The captain of the guard, who hadn't bothered to wear a mask, extended his hand. Alyssa stared only at Kaol with those starlit eyes, and her long white fingers floated through the air to meet his. The crowd began chattering as Kaol led her from the stairs, and they disappeared into the throng. Whatever conversation they were about to have...
drag her to the side and be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Literally, whatever conversation they were about to have, it wasn't going to be pleasant. He'd be better off staying out of it. So I'm like, I don't know why you're feeling jealous of Kaol. He is not charmed. He is mad.
He's about to be like, yeah, we're just gonna... What the fuck are you doing?
Please, said another courtier, tell me that Kaol doesn't suddenly have a wife. Captain Westfall, said the courtier who had spoken earlier, why would a pretty thing like that marry a guard? Remembering who stood beside him, he glanced at Dorian, who was still staring wide-eyed at the stairs. Who is she, your highness? Do you know her? No, I don't, whispered Dorian, and walked away.
Meanwhile, he's all like, I married a guard. That's my husband.
POV switch tilde. The waltz was driving and so loud she had difficulty hearing herself think as Kaol pulled her into the shadowy alcove. Not surprisingly, he hadn't worn a mask. It would be too silly for him. which made the fury on his face all too visible. "So," he seethed, holding tightly to her wrist,
So,
"do you want to tell me how you got it into your mind that this was a good idea?" She tried shaking off his hand, but he wouldn't let go. Across the great hall, Nehemia sat down with the Queen of Aderlin, occasionally glancing in Alyssocles' direction, because she was nervous, or just surprised to see her. "Relax," she hissed at the captain of the guard. "I only wanted to have some fun." "Fun? Crashing a royal ball is your idea of fun?" I mean, yeah. It's a ball, dude.
yeah. It's a party, man.
The phrase is not having a ball to mean something boring and trite and silly. Having a ball means you're having a good time. So yes, I would, in fact. Arguing wouldn't help. She could tell that his anger was mostly about being embarrassed that she'd managed to slip out of her rooms in the first place. She can read minds now.
She didn't even slip out of her room. She was escorted here by one of her guards.
So she gave him a pitiful pout. "I was lonely." He choked. "You couldn't spend one evening on your own?" She twisted her wrist out of his grasp. "Knox is here, and he's a thief." "Oh, hey, Knox mention." "How could you let him come with all the jewelry flashing about and not me?" You're also supposed to be a jewel thief, but okay. "How can I be the king's champion if you don't trust me?" Actually, that was a question she really wanted to know the answer to. They don't. Do you remember that the point is that you're gonna probably stab him in the back later? Oh wait, no. That was the plot point that we came up with that would have made more sense, wherein Dorian was trying to get the throne from his raging warmonger of a father.
Yeah.
We came up with that plot point.
We shouldn't have brainstormed too much for this book. We're gonna start like
I'm just
exchanging plot points for better ones.
I coped too hard.
Coped too hard, got burned up.
Kale covered his face with a hand and let out a long, long sigh. She tried not to smile. She'd won. "If you take one step out of line," she grinned in earnest, "consider it your Yulmus present to me." Kale gave her a weighing look, but slumped his shoulders.
He's like, "I wasn't gonna give you a present, bitch."
"Please don't make me regret this." She patted his cheek, sweeping past him. "I knew I liked you for some reason." He said nothing, but followed her back into the crowd. She'd been to masked balls before, but there was still something unnerving about not being able to see the faces of those around her. Most of the court, Dorian included, wore masks of varying sizes, shapes, and colors, some of simple design, others elaborate and animal-shaped. Nehemia still sat with the queen, wearing a golden turquoise mask with a lotus motif. They appeared to be engaging in polite conversation, and Nehemia's guard stood up to the side of the dais, already looking bored. Kale kept close to her as she found an empty spot in the crowd and stopped. It was a good vantage point. She could see everything from here, the dais, the main stairs, the dance floor. Dorian was dancing with a small brunette with outrageously large breasts that he took no pains to avoid glancing at every so often. Hadn't he noticed her arrival? Even Parrington had seen her when Kale dragged her into that corner. Thankfully, the captain had subtly moved her away before she had to interact with him. Across the room, she met Knox's eye. He was flirting with a young woman wearing a dove mask, and he raised his glass in salute before turning back to the girl. He'd opted for a blue mask that concealed only his eyes. Oh, so you can't see anyone's face, but you still know definitely who everyone is. Got it.
Yeah.
Well, try not to have too much fun, Kale said beside her, crossing his arms. Hiding her scowl, Alyssocles crossed her arms as well and began her vigil. Time skip tilde. An hour later, so no need for a time skip tilde if you're just going to tell us it's an hour later. It's not that long. Alyssocles was beginning to curse herself for being a fool. Nehemia was still sitting with the queen and hadn't looked again in Alyssocles' direction. How had she even considered that Nehemia of all people, would attack everyone? Yeah, it's almost like that was stupid.
Yeah, it's almost like that was a stupid thought to have.
Alyssocles' face burned with shame beneath the mask. She didn't deserve to call herself a friend. All the dead champions and mysterious evil powers in this ridiculous competition had made her go mad. Alyssocles smoothed the furs on her dress, frowning slightly. Kale remained beside her, saying nothing. Though he'd allowed her to stay, she doubted he'd soon forget this, or that the guards wouldn't get the tongue-lashing of their lives later tonight. Elisicles straightened as Nehemia suddenly rose from her seat beside the queen's thrones, her guards snapping to attention. She bowed her head to the queen, the light of the chandeliers making her mask glisten, and then strode off the dais. Elisicles felt each of her heartbeats hammering in her veins as Nehemia wove through the crowd, her guards close behind, and halted in front of Elisicles and Chaol. "You look beautiful, Lillian," Nehemia said in the common tongue, her accent as thick as it had ever been. It felt like a slap in the face. She'd spoken with perfect fluency that night in the library. Was she warning Elisicles to keep quiet about it? I mean, yeah, if her front is that she's not fluent, she's not going to speak fluently in front of this room full of people. "As do you," Elisicles said tightly. Oh, sorry. "As do you," Elisicles said tightly. "Are you enjoying the ball?" Nehemia played with the fold in her dress, and from the look of the rich blue fabric, it was probably a gift from the Queen of Aderlin. "Yes, but I'm not feeling well," the princess said. "I'm going back to my rooms." Elisicles gave her a stiff nod. "I hope you feel better," was all she could think to say. Nehemia looked at her for a long moment, her eyes shining with what seemed like pain, and then left. Elisicles watched her walk up the stairs and didn't tear her gaze away until the princess was gone. Chaol cleared his throat. "Do you want to tell me what that was all about?" "None of your business," she replied. It kind of is. It kind of very much is.
Girl, you keep too many things quiet for someone who just found a bunch of word marks under their bed.
Like, yeah, not wanting to implicate Nehemia, understandable. There are so many ways that you could have told him about this without implicating Nehemia.
Yeah.
Why would he make the connection between those marks and Nehemia unless you specifically spelled that out for him? Something could still happen. Even if Nehemia wasn't here, something could happen. But no, Nehemia wouldn't repay pain with more pain. She was too good for that. Elisicles swallowed...
So now you figured that fucking out.
Elisicles swallowed hard. The makeshift knife in her bodice felt like a dead weight. Actually, it should feel like a stabbing pain, but okay. Even if Nehemia wasn't going to hurt anyone tonight, that didn't prove her innocence. This all feels written out of order. Because she already had her whole, "I'm so dumb for thinking it was Nehemia, but it could still be Nehemia."
And then she's just all like, "Oh, but she wouldn't repay pain with more pain." But...
Unless she did.
And I'm just over here like...
Make up your mind.
Yeah. What do you feel about this character? Say that, and then move on.
No new evidence, one way or the other. There was never really evidence linking her to the champion's murders because it does not benefit her in any way.
Yeah.
You're stupid. Wait, sorry, Haley Joel Osment voice. You're stupid! "What's wrong?" Chaol pressed. Forcing herself to push aside her shame and worry, Elisicles lifted her chin. With Nehemia gone, she still had to keep watch, but maybe she could attempt to have a little fun, too. "With you scowling at everyone, no one will ask me to dance." Chaol's dark brows rose. "I'm not scowling at everyone." Even as he said it,
he just has a resting bitch face. Yeah. Leave him alone.
Even as he said it, she spotted him frowning at a passing courtier who looked too long in Elisicles' direction. "Stop it," she hissed. "No one will ever ask me to dance if you keep doing that."
It's just his face.
He gave her an exasperated look and strode off. She followed him to the border of the dance floor.
Literally getting the same vibe I got when one of my coworkers is all like, "Why do you always look so angry?" And I'm just like, this is just my face. I'm sorry. I'm usually just thinking about what I'm gonna eat for lunch.
Yeah. "Here," he said, standing at the edge of the sea of swirling gowns. "If anyone wants to ask you to dance, you're in plain sight." From this spot, she could also still make sure no feral beasts were about to rip into the crowd. But he didn't need to know that.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, he does. He's maybe the person that needs to know about that the most. She glanced at him. "Would you like to dance with me?" He laughed. "With you? No." He wants to go dance with Dorian. She looked at the marble floor, her chest tight. "You needn't be so cruel." "Cruel? Elisicles Parrington is just over there. I'm sure he's not happy about you being here, so I wouldn't risk drawing his attention any more than necessary." "Coward!" Chaol's eyes softened. If he weren't here, I would have said yes. I can easily arrange that, you know.
It's like placating a small child. It's all like,
Candy.
no, we're going to have dinner.
Then dessert.
Then dessert.
That's stupid. Why?
Because you need dinner. You want dessert. He shook his head as he adjusted the lapel on his black tunic. Just then Dorian waltzed by, sweeping the brunette with him. He didn't even glance at her. Anyway, Kaol added, jerking his chin at Dorian, I think you have far more attractive suitors vying for your attention. I'm boring company to keep.
I don't mind being here with you.
See, this is why I love Chaos so much. He's just like, I'm just your average, everyday, normal guy, and I fucking hate this bitch.
I'm sure you don't, Kaol said dryly.
I'm gonna be so sad when he inevitably, like, falls in love with her.
Yeah, they do break up.
Yeah, but still. I'm all like, dude, you have, I'm sure you have taste. You don't need to do this.
Imagine if him and Dorian were a thing. Again, coping too hard, but...
I believe in the power of love.
I'm sure you don't, Kaol said dryly, though he met her stare.
I mean it. Why aren't you dancing with anyone? Aren't there ladies whom you like?
No, he's gay. I wish. I'm the
believe.
captain of the guard. I'm not exactly a catch for any of them. There was some sorrow in his eyes, though it was well concealed.
Are you mad? You're better than everyone in here. And you're very handsome,
she said, taking his hand in her free one. There was beauty in Kaol's face, and strength and honor and loyalty. She stopped hearing the crowd, and her mouth became dry as he stared at her. How had she missed it for so long?
Stop.
You think so? He
Stop
said.
looking at my boy.
Get those eyes off of him. Get that disrespectful gaze off him. You think so? He said after a moment, looking at their clasped hands. She tightened her grasp.
Why, if I wasn't...
Why aren't you two dancing? Kaol dropped her hand. She had difficulty turning away from him.
And with whom would I dance, your highness?
Dorian was alarmingly handsome in his pewter tunic. One might say it matched her dress. You look radiant, he said. And you look radiant as well, Kaol. He winked at his boyfriend. It says winked at his friend, but we all know. Then Dorian's gaze met hers, and Elisocles' blood turned into shooting stars. Girl, get that checked.
Help.
Well, do I need to lecture you about how stupid it was to sneak into the ball, or can I just ask you to dance with me instead? I don't think that's a good idea, Kaol said.
Why?
They asked in unison.
Because he's the prince.
Dorian
Everyone's gonna pay attention to who he's dancing with.
Dorian stepped a little closer to her. Even though she was ashamed of herself for believing such awful things about Nehemia, knowing that Dorian and Kaol were safe made the misery worth it.
I can't wait for her to, in a paragraph later, be all like, but Nehemia's going to kill everyone.
Because it attracts too much attention, that's why. Elisocles rolled her eyes, and
It's almost
Kaol
like a
glared
baby
at
could
her.
figure this out.
Kaol glared at her. Do I have to remind you who you are?
No, you remind me every day,
She retorted. His brown eyes darkened. What was the point in being nice to her if he was only going to insult her the next moment?
He's not insulting her. He's literally pointing out that she is a fucking assassin. And he is, and Dorian is the prince, and people are going to pay attention to who the prince is dancing with, and they're going to recognize her.
And also, Parrington knows who she is.
Yeah.
Like everyone knows who she is now.
Yeah.
Basically.
Knox was able to clock her in an instant. And we haven't seen his ass in, like, so many chapters. So...
Yeah, not speaking at least.
Yeah.
Dorian put a hand on her shoulder and gave Kaol a charming smile. Relax, Pookie, he said.
What did he actually say?
He just said, relax, Kaol.
Okay. What was it actually be like? I know this...
But doesn't it flow so naturally?
Relax, Spooky.
Relax, Pookie. Like, they could be a polycule. I still wouldn't like it if they were, but they could be. It's plausible.
I feel like Dorian, Kaol, and Nehemia could be a thing, except Nehemia is way too much of like a lesbian.
Yeah.
She's like in a lavender marriage with Dorian, and then Kaol is just
Like I said, it's our double lavender marriage thing.
yeah. Except fucking Alyssocles isn't invited.
Yeah.
Let's have Lady Caltane.
Yeah.
She can be the other
She can
part
be
of
the other one. His hand slipped to rest on her back, his fingers grazing her bare skin. Just take the night off. Dorian turned her from the cap. That's the worst thing
There
to
are
do.
murders going on.
And all the important people are in one spot.
Yeah.
All the guards should be here. That should be how she got out of her rooms. It should be that, like, all the guards are guarding the ballroom right now, so they just, locked her in, and then she just easily picked it.
Yeah.
Like, that would be a much more...
That would make sense.
Yeah.
Like, it would be kind of shoddy security, especially if you have people locked in their rooms and whatnot. You still want to leave someone there standing by. But there should be some really high security at a ball when people are getting murdered.
Yeah, it's like the king's not there, but the queen and the prince are. And a bunch of your nobles and shit. Dorian turned her from the captain. It'll do you some good, he said over his shoulder, though the merriness faded from his tone. I'm getting a drink, muttered Kaol and walked away. Me too.
Go get your drink.
Go get your drink on. She watched the captain for a moment. It would be a miracle if he considered her a friend. Dorian caressed her back, and she looked at him. He is literally looking out for your best interest. Being a friend does not mean only doing things you like. And she looked at him. Her heart jumped into a gallop, and Kaol dissolved from her thoughts like dew beneath the morning sun. She felt bad for forgetting him, but, oh, she wanted Dorian, and she couldn't deny it. She wanted him. Literally, like, less than a page after being like, oh, Kaol's kind of... Oh, wait, but Dorian, no, he's my one true. And, like, this is the kind of thing that makes me hate love triangles.
Yeah.
Because it's not well written, it's not interesting, it's literally just her going, whoa, he's hot, oh, but he's hotter. Oh, he's in front of me right now, jingle, jingle, oh, the keys have moved.
And it's like they can't even take the plunge to just make the main character poly.
Yeah.
Never happens. It's all like, it would make a lot more sense if the character just came out and was all like, yeah, I very commonly find multiple people hot and, at the same time and would be willing to engage in multiple different romances simultaneously. But they never do that. Yeah,
and it's... I get that it's, like, not the point or whatever of a love triangle... But even when it would make more sense.
It's better this way.
Just not everyone is polyamorous. I feel like we definitely need more polyamorous representation in mainstream media, which is...
That isn't, like, horrendously toxic.
Yeah, like, while I personally have no real interest in reading Iron Widow by Jiren Zhao, I know that it is a trad pub series that has polyamory.
Good job. We love you, Jiren Zhao.
Thank you, Jiren Zhao. And I hope that it does become a little bit more common and a little bit more, openly acceptable in general spaces and not just LGBTQ spaces.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just a badly written, like, even take the possibility of that away, this is just badly written love triangle.
Yeah.
Because the point of the love triangle, in my humble, non-love triangle loving opinion, is the yearning, is the not knowing which one would truly be the best option. Having two really solid choices and just not being able to decide. Like when you're sitting at Cheesecake Factory. Here comes the asexuality. Are you ready? Like when
listen, I will be able to completely relate because I know exactly what you're gonna say.
It's like when you're sitting at Cheesecake Factory and You've just finished your meal and it was a great meal. You've still got just that little bit of room left and they bring out the dessert menu and you're like, fuck, which cheesecake do I go with? Because maybe I'm in a chocolate mood or maybe I'm in a fruit mood. Usually I'm in a fruit mood when it comes to cheesecake.
Yeah, same.
But then what do I choose? Do I choose the raspberry lemon or do I choose the mango key lime? Or if fucking pumpkin's in season, that's a whole other thing because it's only there sometimes. But what if I'm not feeling pumpkin that day? That raspberry lemon do hit just right. But also, what if I had that last time and I want to try something new? And you're just left sitting there for 15 minutes while the waiter checks their watch and because you swear you're gonna decide any minute now. Like, that's a good love triangle to me. Having equally good options that no matter which one you choose, you're gonna be satisfied with it, but you're not gonna get the other one.
Alas, like, most love triangles are not that. It's always just one is significantly better than the other, and the other one is the main love interest.
Or worse, there's just two pieces of cardboard.
Well,
with the face scribbled on. And one face is a smiley face, and the other face is a frowny face. And you're like, do I want that smiley or that frowny?
but let's be real, most of the time it is fucking the good love interest is never chosen. It's always like the boring sucky one.
And I think that comes from them knowing the end game ahead of time.
Yeah.
And
so they don't bother they don't bother developing the main love interest, but they have to work to be all like, but this other guy like will vie for the main character's affections as well, and here's all the likable things about him.
Yeah, it's
and then you're just
exactly
like
that.
And then you're just like, well, this guy has stated likable things about him, and then this guy is just the character that the main character is going to end up with, and we all know it.
Yeah. And I think you just took the words right out of my mouth. Because I was just about to say basically all of that. You got me. You got the jump on me. But yeah, it's, and a lot of times, just from an author's perspective, sometimes it's hard to remember that the audience doesn't have access to all of the information that you have access to. So for the author's head, it probably seems so obvious that the main character is going to end up with their endgame love interest
like,
because they know that.
They were built as the main character's soulmate.
That it's like you said, they put a ton more effort into being like, oh, but I gotta make this a believable red herring over here, and then they end up putting so much more work into that that the main love interest becomes the
cardboard cutout,
the underdeveloped one. Which I guess Sarah J. Maas avoids doing by only introducing the actual main love interest's viability the second or third book in. They're not appearing in this love triangle.
Yes, they're not appearing in this fucking series for a while.
I think that Alyssa final love interest doesn't show up until like the end of book 3 or book 4 or something. Like we get this book, and then we get her dating Dorian, and then they break up, and then she dates Kale, and then they break up, and then she actually gets with her main love interest, who is 3 books behind of character development at this point.
Yeah, which will just inevitably piss off everyone. Because you've had these, like, how fandom works. You already have these 2 warring factions of assumedly the straightest people you've ever met. Being all like, Alyssa and Dorian is the best. No, Alyssa and Kale is the best. And then I'm just over here like neither.
Imagine if Stephanie Meyer, after Eclipse, because Eclipse was really where the whole Team Edward, Team Jacob thing really took off. And I think that was also around the time the movie came out.
Yeah.
Imagine if there's just some new guy who showed up in Breaking Dawn and Bella was like, that's actually my true love, and then just dipped. That's pretty much what happens in Sarah J. Maas books.
Yeah.
Except there's, more content afterwards. Stephanie Meyer would have had to write at least like
To
8,000 more pages after that. But
to be fair, also, I would have been way more interested in Twilight if Edward Jacob was Endgame. Once again, the two male parts of this love triangle would be so much more interesting if they just got together.
especially because then they have the whole forbidden romance angle of like, oh, but it's a vampire and a werewolf, and they're both boys at a time when that was really frowned upon.
And this book is written by a Mormon.
Well, and that's why it would never happen. But,
Yeah. But we can believe.
but we can dream.
Well, I mean, she was already a Mormon writing about vampires and shit. Like,
Yeah, it's not that far of a stretch from that.
it's all like, you could have done something great. You coulda.
You could have been the funniest motherfucker on the planet.
She was a Mormon, not only writing about vampires, but also Native Americans, which Mormonism has kind of a
Thing.
history with Native Americans.
I mean, she wrote about them in a very disrespectful way.
Yeah,
but
she didn't.
They were included
She
at
didn't
all.
really know that she was being disrespectful. She tried. She tried real hard to be nice, and then she just wasn't good at it. But it's all right. Like, at least they've been given quite a bit of funding, and like they've gotten something out of their spotlight,
Yeah.
in which like people are actually paying attention to what their actual needs are and shit
Like,
that.
not from her.
Not from her, but kind of like an after effect of the spotlight being turned on them because
Yeah.
of this book. Like,
Like,
yay.
it's like, damn, it's something, I guess.
It's something.
We're almost done with this chapter.
Okay, yeah.
You look beautiful, Dorian said quietly. Wow, great pickup line. Running an eye over her in a way that made her ears burn. I haven't been able to stop staring at you.
Oh, and I thought you hadn't even noticed me.
Kale got there first when you arrived, and besides, I had to work up the nerve to approach you, he grinned. You're very intimidating, especially with the mask.
And I suppose it didn't help that you had a line of ladies waiting to dance with you.
I thought the whole point of the masks is that it's less intimidating to approach people because you aren't, like, everyone knows who you are, but they're not supposed to, so there's like no societal and social like expectations.
Yeah, that's kind of the point of a masked ball, is that you can intermingle with anybody and you don't have to worry about the social graces of addressing your superiors or inferiors in class stratus.
Yeah,
But okay.
but okay.
I'm here now, aren't I? Her heart tightened and she realized it wasn't the answer she'd been hoping for. What did she want from him? He held out his hand, inclining his head. Dance with me? Was there music playing? She'd forgotten. The world had shrunk into nothing, dissolved by the golden glow of candles. But there were her feet, and here was her arm, and her neck, and her mouth. She smiled and took his hand, and still keeping one eye on the ball around them. So has the world shrunk into nothing, or are you able to keep your eye on the ball around you? You cannot have both in the same fucking paragraph.
We cannot have the Romeo Juliet, everything fades out around you, but also have full awareness. That's not how this works.
And that's what I really hate about this kind of writing, is that these descriptions, even when they're actually pretty nice, mean nothing, because then Sarah J. Maas says the opposite thing, either in the next paragraph or in the same paragraph.
It's once again Sarah J. Maas not knowing literary canon well enough to use these tropes effectively.
And also just wanting to be like, oh yeah, she's a young girl swept up in the moment in the romance, but she is a super competent assassin who is also aware of everything going on around her.
It's all like, you know what? If she is swept up in the moment, that could be a moment of weakness. That could be interesting and useful.
She could be like, oh hey, this is how I got captured and taken to Endovier, or this is how Sam died because I got too distracted. And, we could have some character things, some
Like,
exploration of her past and psyche.
it would be so much more interesting if Sarah J. Maas chose one. Whether the world narrows into just this moment, could be an interesting moment of weakness. Or her being too caught up in being aware of everything going on around her that she's not able to appreciate this moment. Like, Dorian could pick up on that and feel like, oh, this is just, you know,
A formality.
a formality. Like, it would be so much more interesting if you just chose one instead of trying to do both.
This is going to be a very full episode because I'm about to drop a hot take. And I could be using this term incorrectly, so in the comments, feel free to call me an idiot if you want to, if I'm fucking this up.
Sure.
But that right there, all that you just said,
Mhm.
is why I am not a fan of why choose romance. A why choose romance, from my understanding,
yeah.
that could be wrong, is basically like when there's a dating sim and they make an anime out of it and they just decide to put all the routes in the anime.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And it's so, you know, you don't have to choose because you get all of the dialogue options with all of the love interests. And it's not as interesting to me because
Like,
having to make a choice is part of the appeal to me of like this whole having multiple different love interests.
yeah,
kind
but
of
at
thing.
the same time, I understand why it happens with like anime adaptations, because you're gonna have everyone watching the anime adaptation, and not everybody is gonna just want to see one route. They're gonna want to see their favorite route. So, like, from a marketing and like fan desire standpoint, it's understandable why they do that. But yeah, like, it does make for really clunky story writing.
See, except that with Why Choose, we're not talking about an anime adaptation. We're talking about an original book.
Oh yeah,
So
like, yeah,
yeah, like I'm just trying to like explain it
yeah,
in the
yeah.
way that would make it make sense of what it is.
yeah.
Um.
I get you.
So yeah, like understandable because the anime is being made for fans of the game.
Mm-hmm. And it's gonna be clunky because it's an Otome game anime adaptation. I don't think there's a single like really good one of those.
My mind just flashes back to watching the DMMD dub with Shannon for his birthday. Go back to St. Louis for you, beloved.
To be fair, like the first
It
time I
was
watched the
hilariously
DMMD
bad.
dub was with my friend Arty, and I swear to God, it was like a fever dream. I had no idea what was going on because I had no context at that point because Shannon hadn't even like shown me gameplay of DMMD. I was just like vaguely aware that DMMD existed, and Artie was all like, "Oh, there's an anime," and I'm like, "I don't okay." So we were just watching it, and I was just over here like, I have no idea what's going on. But
It was bad.
yeah, it was bad, but also
It's like funny bad.
it's so quotable. It's like if the Ghost Stories dub was
Sincere.
sincere in a way. Well, kind of like there's a bit more sincerity than it is in the Ghost Stories dub, but it's also like
They had to know.
tragically missing the point in so many ways.
They were
Like they were presented with, like with Ghost Stories, they were presented with a mediocre anime and they made it great through the dub, whereas they were with DMMD, they were presented with a mediocre anime and made it mediocre in a different way through the dub with some like occasional very quotable lines.
what happened is they were handed a yaoi otome game and they tried to make it into a shonen anime.
And they also
Failed.
couldn't adapt half of it because DMMD,
It's porn.
yeah, you can't
You can't have Clear sadly twerking, or no, Alba sadly twerking over Clear's dead body.
yeah. Like
Like the musical.
the musical.
Okay.
But yeah.
Oh, but getting back to the point,
Yeah.
that is why I am not a fan of why choose romance, because
Yeah, because it gets very clunky.
it gets clunky and having to make a choice and that choice meaning something is part of the appeal of multiple love interests to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not in defiance or opposition to the idea of having more polyamory representation, because there are many different conflicts and relationship dynamics that you could include with just polyamorous characters and just having them just
Honestly,
be polyamorous. But the Why Choose romances that I've seen, if they actually include polyamory at all, have been very fetishistic of it.
See, I'm just over here like, you know what really needs to come back? Choose your own adventure novels.
Yeah, like that'd
We
be
need
fun.
to choose our own romance novels. We need visual novels without the visuals.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen, romance writers. You too can write your own non-visual visual novel.
See, I think a lot of people who are doing that are just making visual novels and putting them on Steam.
Yeah.
It's the thing.
Yeah. But you know, it's all like I would buy the hell out of a choose your own romance book.
Those must exist.
I'm sure they do, but they need
We need more.
They need to be more popular.
They need to be
Because
on shelves in Barnes and Noble.
Because I wanna be able to be all like, okay, but what if I go back and then choose this? What'll happen this way? Who am I gonna kiss? It needs to happen.
Yeah. And a final note on polyamory representation. There's a writer that I follow on Tumblr who has a very popular, I think, book that has supernatural romance and is directly stated to be polyamorous. And
Nice.
I always forget the name of it. I want to call it Hunger Pangs. If you follow me on Tumblr, you've seen me reblog it. I always forget. See, this is like I see things in passing and they don't sink into my brain. But the Bibliosphere is the blog name of the person who wrote it.
Yeah.
This person also shares a lot about like chronic illness and conditions and things that is a whole other saga. But I've been meaning to read it. So maybe this episode will finally motivate me to open up my Kindle and actually read it.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing about this book, and I swear I will wrap this up quickly, is that there are two versions of it. One version has like fade to blacks for all the sex scenes, and the other version includes the sex scenes.
Okay.
And I think that's a really interesting way to market a book of because not everyone wants to read the sex scenes, and some people that's really what they're there for. So having the two different versions where this one includes
The difference
all the
between
stuff.
the difference between the M rating and the E rating.
Yeah. And I don't know, I kind of wish that more books would do that. Because then the people who want those scenes can have them, and the people who don't have to. And it doesn't really change anything about, the story. Because even in the book where the scenes are omitted, obviously you're still gonna, come back to the characters after the fact, and they'll probably be thinking about or discussing the experience without having to actually read it on the page.
Yeah.
It just makes it easier for someone like me who very frequently gets bored during sex scenes and just kind of skips them. Very first world problem of me, but it would be nice if I didn't just have to flip through however many pages, especially because I usually read when I'm at work.
Yeah.
And, you just kind of don't want to be reading that at work sometimes.
Tell that to everyone who was reading 50 Shades of Grey on the fucking bus back in the day.
See, the bus is not work, though. I don't have to look the people on the bus.
People were reading it at work, too.
I mean, okay, well, specifically, I work in a setting where that could really get me in trouble.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was making I was making a joke.
A funny joke. All right, anywho, that's gonna wrap it up. Thank you for being with us through this very, very dense episode. I think we got a lot of really good commentary in this one, honestly.
And we went on so many tangents, haha.
But, they were good-ass tangents.
Yeah.
I think I am very proud of the tangents in this episode. I think they're some of our best. This is some of our best tangents since we were looking up, glassmaking and shit.
This is some of our best work. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Good shit. Not the book, but us. fantastic. If you want to see some work from me that's not fantastic, you didn't think you were getting out of this without a plug, did you? You can support me on Ko-fi or Patreon or right here by becoming a member of the channel. And when you do that, you will have access to a whole bunch of cool stuff, including early access to videos and getting your name in the description or the end credits, getting your name in the books that I write. Very cool and fun stuff. Exclusive for supporters is a podcast series we are doing called Keep It in the Drafts, where we are currently reading and reacting to my middle school writing. And I think what people are going to very quickly find out is that a lot of the things that I hate in modern fantasy and sci-fi literature,
It's projection.
It's like that ContraPoints video on cringe, right?
Yeah.
We cringe when we recognize ourselves.
Yeah.
So a lot of the things that I hate about this book, I'm doing just as bad in my 13-year-old middle school writing. And if you want to see me die a little inside every week, you can go support me. And for $2 a month, you can add a nail to my coffin. Food for thought. Thanks for being here, and keep growing till next time, Rose Garden.
Peace.
Thank you for watching all the way to the end. My deepest gratitude goes out to my supporters, who you'll see on screen here and also in the description. If you'd like, you could become a member of the Rose Garden by supporting me on Patreon, Ko-fi, or by buying my books. And don't forget that for an indie author like me, every like, comment, and subscription is a huge help. Good night, my lovely Rose Garden.